Prologue. Rain pelted the city like broken glass, slicing through the silence of the alley. The night was wrong, too still, too heavy, as if the darkness itself held its breath. Sofia Carter pulled her coat tighter, hurrying past dumpsters and brick walls sprayed with graffiti. Her shift at the diner had ended late, and the bus she usually caught had already left. She hated cutting through this part of downtown, but it was faster. 5 more minutes, and she'd be on the main road. Safe. But fate had already marked her. She heard the voices before she saw them. Sharp, male, cruel. Her steps slowed. A scream, cut short. Her heart twisted. Curiosity and instinct waged war in her chest. She shouldn't look. She should run. But something pulled her closer. Peering around the edge of a crumbling wall, Sofia saw 3 men in black suits standing in a pool of red under the flickering light of a lamppost. One of them, tall, lean, commanding, wiped blood from his hands with a silk handkerchief. The body at his feet was motionless, lifeless. Sofia's breath hitched, too loud. The man's head snapped up, eyes like ice locked onto hers. Run. She turned and bolted, shoes slipping on wet concrete, pulse deafening in her ears. She didn't scream, couldn't. All she could do was run. She darted between crates, down narrow paths, praying she'd lose them in the maze, but her body betrayed her. She slipped on a slick patch of pavement and fell hard. Breath knocked from her lungs. Before she could rise, someone grabbed her. Arms strong as steel wrapped around her waist. She struggled, kicked, screamed into the night. But a deep, calm voice at her ear made her freeze. "You shouldn't have seen that." She awoke in silk sheets. Sofia jolted upright, heart hammering. This wasn't her apartment. This was a mansion? Marble floors stretched out beyond the open door. The scent of leather, cologne, and something darker, something wild, wrapped around her. The room was empty, but she wasn't alone. He stood in the doorway, the man from the alley. Black suit, sharp jaw, eyes cold enough to freeze fire. "You're awake," he said, voice like velvet wrapped around steel. She backed away, fists tightening in the blanket. "Where am I? What do you want from me?" He didn't move, just watched her. "You were supposed to be dead." His voice held no regret, just fact. "Then why am I here?" The corner of his mouth twitched. "Because I couldn't do it." She stared, confusion warring with fear. "You reminded me of someone I lost," he murmured, more to himself than to her. Then softer, dangerously soft, he added, "So now, little rabbit, you belong to me."
Welcome to another episode of Ever After Romance Audiobook. This is an original story created for entertainment only. Enjoy!
Chapter 1. The Detour and the Grip of Obsession. Moonlight filtered through arched windows, painting the marble floor in silver stripes as Sofia backed into the corner of the grand foyer. Her pulse pounded like tribal drums, adrenaline scorching through her veins. She tore the blanket from her shoulders, daring to move toward the ornate double doors, and freedom. But the doors didn't budge. A quiet click behind her made her whirl. Lorenzo stood in the shadows, folded arms, that same impossibly calm expression. His eyes, icy, arresting, traced her every tremor. "Listen closely," he said, stepping into the glow of a crystal chandelier. Each footfall echoed on the marble. "No one leaves this house without my permission." Sofia's breath caught. She swallowed, lips dry. "Then what am I? A prisoner?" He offered no answer, only an inscrutable tilt of his head as if studying a rare painting. The air between them crackled, his silent gaze digging into her soul. She shook her head and bolted for the grand staircase. Her heel struck the first step, and he was there before she reached the second, blocking her path in a single stride. Towering, composed, the scent of rain and cologne drifting off him like a promise and a threat. "Stop," he murmured, voice soft but absolute. "You don't understand what you stumbled into." Her chest heaved. "I'm not staying to find out." He reached out, fingertips brushing her arm. The contact was electric, warmth searing through her jacket, twisting in her chest. She froze under his touch, fear and something deeper, a flicker of intrigue, roaring beneath her skin. "Why are you doing this?" she demanded, trying to wrench her arm free. "You spared me. Why?" He paused, eyes darkening. "Because you're not like the others." Sofia's heart lurched. "The others? You kill witnesses." He didn't deny it. Instead, he leaned closer, breath feather light against her ear. "And I almost killed you. But your fear, your spirit, it reminds me I'm still alive." Her breath hitched, anxiety flaring into something more volatile. Curiosity, horror, a burgeoning awareness that beneath his ruthless facade lay something fragile and dangerous. Before she could speak, a thunderclap rattled the windows. Rain began to lash against the glass, and the mansion seemed to shrink around them, trapping them in a cocoon of storm and secrets. Lorenzo straightened, stepping back into the shadows. "Rest," he said, voice low. "Tomorrow, I'll explain. Everything." She backed away, hand trembling on the banister. "I want proof." He paused at the top of the stairs, silhouette bathed in moonlight. "Proof," he echoed, "comes at dawn." And with that, he vanished into the night-black hallway, leaving Sofia alone on the landing, heart-pounding, mind-racing, and utterly irrevocably captive. Chapter 2. A Mansion of Whispers. Sofia wandered the grand hallway like a ghost in someone else's life. Morning light bled through towering stained glass windows, casting fractured colors across the marble. The silence was eerie, too heavy, too perfect, as if the walls themselves were listening. She trailed her fingers along the velvet wallpaper, every inch of her body coiled in tension. She hadn't slept. Not really. How could she, knowing a man with blood on his hands had let her live for reasons that made no sense? "Because you remind me of someone I lost." His words echoed in her skull, wrapping around her like invisible chains. She passed a room with the door ajar. Inside, bookshelves stretched to the ceiling, fire crackling in a stone hearth, and there, sitting in an armchair, was the monster himself, Lorenzo Moretti. His dark eyes lifted from the file in his hand. "You're awake." "I never slept." He nodded once, as if that answer didn't surprise him. "Coffee?" Sofia hesitated. "Do you offer all your witnesses breakfast before killing them?" A faint smirk tugged at the corner of his mouth. "Only the ones I'm keeping." The words sent a shiver down her spine. She stepped into the library, gaze darting to the massive windows. No guards, no bars, but no escape either. Somehow she knew that. This place was a cage with silk curtains. "You owe me answers," she said, wrapping her arms around herself. Lorenzo rose slowly. His presence was magnetic, measured grace in every movement, like a predator stalking slow. "What do you want to know?" "Why I'm here. Why you haven't killed me. Why you—" She faltered as his gaze intensified, rooting her to the spot. "Why you look at me like that?" His voice was low, edged with something dangerous. "Because your eyes remind me of hers." Sofia blinked. "Hers?" "My wife," he said simply. "She died 3 years ago." A pause, long, waited. She was the only softness I had in my world. He walked toward her, every step deliberate. "Then you appeared. Same fire, same eyes. And I couldn't pull the trigger." Sofia's breath tangled in her throat. "You're comparing me to a ghost." "No," he said, his voice rougher now. "I'm warning you. Whatever kindness you see in me, it's not real. It's a reflection of what I lost." Her heart thundered. "Then let me go." He reached her, hand lifting slowly toward her cheek. She flinched, but he didn't touch her, just hovered there, inches from her skin. "I should," he whispered, "but I can't." She took a shaky step back, staring up at him. What happens now? His answer came like a vow, dangerous and binding. Now, I protect you, whether you want it or not. Just then, a sharp knock shattered the moment. One of his men stepped in, voice urgent. "Boss, there's a problem." Lorenzo's eyes never left hers as he muttered, "Handle it." But Sofia knew then, this house wasn't just hiding her. It was hiding secrets that might destroy her. And Lorenzo? He wasn't her captor anymore. He was her storm. The garden stretched behind the mansion like a piece of forgotten Eden, lush, walled in, and deathly still. Sofia wandered its cobbled path, her boots crunching softly over fallen petals, the cold morning air teasing her hair. She had needed space, breathing room. And when Lorenzo didn't stop her from slipping out through the French doors, she seized the chance. But the further she walked, the more she noticed it. The walls, high, ivy-clad and stretching around the entire perimeter, like prison fences masquerading as elegance. Trapped. Still. The scent of roses was thick in the air, but it didn't soothe her. It felt like perfume masking something rotting underneath. Why won't he let me leave? Why do I feel like I'm being watched? Her thoughts spiraled until she reached a stone bench in the garden's center. A statue of a weeping angel loomed over her. She sat, fingers trembling in her lap, trying not to cry. She hadn't cried since that night in the alley. She wouldn't start now. But then, I always find you in the quiet places. She jerked around. Lorenzo stood behind her, dressed in black slacks and a half-unbuttoned shirt that made him look more like a fallen god than a Mafia king. Sunlight caught the faint scar across his collarbone, a mark he never explained. She rose. "You're following me." "No," he said. "I'm protecting you." "From what?" She snapped. "You? Your men? Or the outside world I'm not allowed to return to?" A breeze caught her coat as silence fell between them. Then, with slow deliberation, Lorenzo stepped closer. His voice dropped to something quieter, almost wounded. "There are people looking for you now. Men from the crew we disposed of. If they knew you were alive, they'd burn everything to find you." Sofia's blood chilled. "Because I saw what you did?" He didn't flinch. "Because you saw who we did it to. He wasn't just any traitor." She swallowed hard. "Then I definitely shouldn't be here." "You should," he said, his voice taut. "Because you're safer here than anywhere else." He was too close now, his scent filling her senses, dark spice, danger, and something warm beneath it all. She hated the way her pulse betrayed her every time he drew near. "This isn't safety," she whispered. "This is possession." He stepped even closer. "Then why haven't you run?" Sofia's lips parted, but no words came. Because she didn't know. Because part of her didn't want to run. Not from him. A sound cracked through the air, like something being snapped. They both turned. A figure stood just beyond the hedge, watching, then vanished. Lorenzo grabbed her wrist. "Inside. Now." But he was already dragging her toward the mansion, and as they crossed the threshold, Sofia knew something had changed. She wasn't just a witness anymore. She was a target, and the man who held her captive might be the only one who could keep her alive. Chapter 3. The Garden with No Exit. The garden stretched behind the mansion like a piece of forgotten Eden, lush, walled in, and deathly still. Sofia wandered its cobbled path, her boots crunching softly over fallen petals, the cold morning air teasing her hair. She had needed space, breathing room, and when Lorenzo didn't stop her from slipping out through the French doors, she seized the chance. But the further she walked, the more she noticed it. The walls, high, ivy-clad and stretching around the entire perimeter, like prison fences masquerading as elegance. Trapped. Still. The scent of roses was thick in the air, but it didn't soothe her. It felt like perfume masking something rotting underneath. Why won't he let me leave? Why do I feel like I'm being watched? Her thoughts spiraled until she reached a stone bench in the garden's center. A statue of a weeping angel loomed over her. She sat, fingers trembling in her lap, trying not to cry. She hadn't cried since that night in the alley. She wouldn't start now. But then, I always find you in the quiet places. She jerked around. Lorenzo stood behind her, dressed in black slacks and a half-unbuttoned shirt that made him look more like a fallen god than a Mafia king. Sunlight caught the faint scar across his collarbone, a mark he never explained. She rose. "You're following me." "No," he said. "I'm protecting you." "From what?" she snapped. "You? Your men? Or the outside world I'm not allowed to return to?" A breeze caught her coat as silence fell between them. Then, with slow deliberation, Lorenzo stepped closer. His voice dropped to something quieter, almost wounded. "There are people looking for you now. Men from the crew we disposed of. If they knew you were alive, they'd burn everything to find you." Sofia's blood chilled. "Because I saw what you did?" He didn't flinch. "Because you saw who we did it to. He wasn't just any traitor." She swallowed hard. "Then I definitely shouldn't be here." "You should," he said, his voice taut, "because you're safer here than anywhere else." He was too close now, his scent filling her senses. Dark spice, danger, and something warm beneath it all. She hated the way her pulse betrayed her every time he drew near. "This isn't safety," she whispered. "This is possession." He stepped even closer. "Then why haven't you run?" Sofia's lips parted, but no words came. Because she didn't know. Because part of her didn't want to run, not from him. A sound cracked through the air, like something being snapped. They both turned. A figure stood just beyond the hedge watching, then vanished. Lorenzo grabbed her wrist. "Inside. Now." But he was already dragging her toward the mansion, and as they crossed the threshold, Sofia knew something had changed. She wasn't just a witness anymore, she was a target, and the man who held her captive might be the only one who could keep her alive. Chapter 4. A room he never lets anyone enter. The house swallowed them whole. Lorenzo's grip was steel around Sofia's wrist as he pulled her through a series of narrow halls she hadn't yet seen. Gone was the grand marble. Here the walls were darker, wood-paneled, heavy with shadows and silence. "Where are we going?" she asked breathlessly, stumbling to keep up. He didn't answer, not until they stopped at a tall, double-oak door tucked behind a tapestry at the end of the corridor. He pulled a key from a chain around his neck and unlocked it. The door groaned open like something ancient and haunted. Sofia hesitated on the threshold. "This room," he said lowly, "was hers." The moment she stepped inside, she felt it. The grief, thick and lingering like perfume left too long on silk. The room was preserved. A pale chaise sat beneath a bay window. Books lay open on a side table as if the reader had simply stepped out. Framed photos lined the mantel. A violin rested beside a chair, and in the center of it all, the scent of lavender. "Your wife," Sofia whispered. Lorenzo nodded, but his eyes never left the bed. "Isabella. She loved music, poetry, the garden. I used to find her singing to herself when she thought I wasn't listening." He stepped inside, his shoulders no longer sharp with tension but heavy with memory. "She died in this room. Cancer. Slow. Cruel." Sofia's breath caught. She hadn't expected this. Not from him. "I tried to move on after," he said. "Tried to drown the pain and violence, in control, but it followed me. It always follows." She turned toward him. "And now, you see her in me." "No." His gaze snapped to hers, fierce and raw. "I thought I did. At first. The night I should have killed you, I told myself it was because you reminded me of her." He stepped closer, voice lowering to something dangerous and intimate. "But now I see the truth. You're not her shadow. You're your own fire." Sofia's heart kicked against her ribs. the way he looked at her. It wasn't grief anymore. It was need. "I shouldn't want you," he murmured. "But every time you speak, every time you breathe, I want more." He was in front of her now, so close his words ghosted against her skin. Her lips parted, confusion and longing warring in her chest. "This is wrong. I've lived wrong for years," he said. "But you feel like the only right thing I've touched since she died." Before she could speak, his fingers brushed her cheek, a slow, reverent touch that sent heat rippling down her spine. She didn't pull away. But then, a crash echoed from somewhere below. Gunshots, shouting. Lorenzo turned, eyes flashing to ice. "Stay here." He was gone before she could stop him, slamming the door behind him. And Sofia, alone in the sacred room of his dead wife, now knew two things. One, she was falling for him. Two, someone was coming to destroy them both. Chapter 5. Blood in the halls. Secrets in the walls. Sofia didn't mean to move. But when the thunder of gunfire cracked again, closer this time, it pulled her like a magnet toward the door. She pressed her ear against the wood. Shouts echoed down the corridor. Men's voices thick with fear and fury. And then, Lorenzo's voice, low, commanding, ruthless. Sofia's breath shook. She should have stayed in the room. But her legs had other plans. She cracked the door open and slipped out, her bare feet silent on the polished floor. The hallway was empty, but the scent of gunpowder was fresh in the air. She followed it. Down the main stairs. Around the corner. Until a body. She stumbled to a halt. One of the guards, Marco, the one who had smuggled her an apple just yesterday, lay in a pool of blood, his eyes glassy, staring at nothing. A sob clawed at her throat, but she swallowed it. She crept forward, keeping to the wall, and stopped when she heard voices. "In and out, you said," someone hissed. "Why the hell is Moretti still standing?" "I told you, he doesn't die easy," another snapped. "But the girl, she's the key. Find the girl." Sofia's heart slammed against her ribs. "They came for me." Before she could turn, a hand clamped over her mouth. She screamed, but it was swallowed by the rough palm against her lips. "Shh," came a voice she knew. "It's me." Lorenzo. He spun her around, eyes scanning her face, her body, like he needed to see for himself she wasn't hurt. Then he pulled her into him, one arm locked around her waist, the other cradling her head. "I told you to stay," he rasped into her hair. "I heard—" "I don't care what you heard," he growled. "If something had happened to you." The words trailed off, strangled by something raw in his throat. He pulled back just enough to look at her, his face shadowed and fierce. "You don't get it, do you?" he whispered. Sofia's hands trembled against his chest. "Get what?" "That you're mine now." She froze. "I didn't plan this," he went on, voice taut. "I didn't want this. But the moment I laid eyes on you, I knew. Whether I keep you locked away or let you go, you'll haunt me. You'll ruin me either way." His lips were so close she could feel the tremble of his breath. "I won't survive losing someone again." And just like that, the wall crumbled. Sofia surged forward and kissed him. It wasn't sweet. It wasn't soft. It was desperate, bruised, bruising. Like a storm had taken over them both. And for one suspended second, there was nothing but the heat of his mouth, the strength of his arms, the way her name sounded when he moaned into her. But just as fast, a sharp cry from outside, a scream, then silence. Lorenzo pulled back, eyes sharp. "They're not done." He grabbed her hand. "You stay with me. From now on, Sofia, you don't take another step without me." She nodded, breathless. But deep inside, she knew it wasn't over. Whatever war had started, it wasn't just about him anymore. Now she was part of it. Chapter 6. You Shouldn't Have Kissed Me. The rain had started again, a soft drumming against the bulletproof windows of Lorenzo's bedroom, but Sofia barely heard it. She sat on the edge of his massive bed, still shaken, still breathless from the chaos, and from the kiss that had torn something open inside her she wasn't ready to name. Lorenzo paced in front of her, his shirt splattered with blood, none of it his own, but it didn't matter. His jaw clenched with every step and his gun was still holstered, like he expected another ambush any moment. "You kissed me," she said quietly. He stopped mid-step. The silence between them swelled. "You kissed me back," he answered, voice rough. "Don't pretend you didn't want it." "I didn't say I didn't." She looked up, meeting his gaze. "But you said I'm yours. You said I ruin you. Then you kissed me like I was already yours to ruin." His throat worked as he swallowed. "You have no idea what I'm trying to protect you from, Sofia. Then tell me." Her voice rose, trembling but defiant. "Tell me why they came for me. Tell me why I'm locked in this house like I'm your possession." He moved then, fast, closing the space between them in a heartbeat. "You think I want this?" He snapped, his hands gripping the footboard behind her, caging her in. "You think I like waking up terrified you'll be gone or dead because someone wanted to use you to get to me?" Sofia stared up at him, breath caught. "Do you know how many people would kill to see me bleed?" He went on. "The moment you walked into my life, you became my greatest weakness, and I don't have weaknesses." Something flickered in his eyes. Pain, maybe. Guilt. "But you made yourself one," she whispered. His jaw twitched. "Yes." They were too close. Every breath they took echoed in the space between their lips. His scent was everywhere. Clean soap, gunpowder, danger, and it made her dizzy. "You shouldn't have kissed me," she said again. "I know," he murmured, "but I couldn't stop." His hand lifted, slow, deliberate, and brushed her cheek. Not possessive, not aggressive, tender. It stunned her more than his anger. "I've never wanted anyone like this," he whispered. "Not even her." She blinked. "Her?" A flicker of something crossed his face. Regret. Loss. "My fiancé. Dead 2 years now. That's who you remind me of." Sofia's heart clenched. "So that's why I'm here. I'm just her shadow." "No." His voice turned fierce again. "You're not her. You're nothing like her. But something in you woke something in me I thought was dead." His thumb grazed her lips. "I'm not trying to replace her. I'm trying to keep you alive." And then, the door burst open. One of his men stood there, bleeding from the shoulder. "They're coming back," he rasped. "They know she's still here." Lorenzo didn't hesitate. He turned to Sofia, eyes blazing. "No more hiding, you're leaving with me." "But where?" He grabbed her hand. "Somewhere no one can touch you, not even me." Chapter 7. The safe house and the locked heart. Sofia had never known silence like this. Not the kind that soothed, but the kind that pressed heavy against her ribs. Dense, fragile, like one wrong breath would shatter the world around her. The car ride had been long. Lorenzo hadn't spoken once. His jaw had been tight, hands gripping the wheel like they were the only thing keeping him anchored. Now they were here, somewhere deep in the countryside, miles from the city's chaos. The safe house was beautiful. Not what she expected from a Mafia hideout. It was an old stone cottage, tucked beneath a canopy of weeping willows, with ivy climbing its walls like fingers. The air smelled of wet grass and pine. Wind whispered through the leaves like a lullaby meant for someone else. Inside, it was simple. Warm lights, wooden floors, thick curtains, a fireplace already lit, casting golden flames across the room. But there was no comfort in the air. Not when Lorenzo shut the door behind her and leaned against it, looking like a man on the verge of something dangerous. She stood in the center of the room, arms wrapped around herself. "Why here?" He exhaled, his voice gravel-soft. "Because no one knows it exists." "Not even your men?" "No one." She turned. "Then why bring me?" His gaze locked with hers. Because I don't trust myself not to lose you. Sofia's breath hitched. He stepped forward slowly, like she might run. But she didn't. Not this time. I need you safe, he said, eyes dark. But I can't keep pretending this is only protection. Her heart thundered. I didn't ask you to fall for me, she whispered. I didn't ask to breathe you in and find I couldn't breathe without you, he growled. I didn't ask to see you smile and feel like a man again instead of a monster. He reached out, brushing a strand of damp hair from her face. I didn't ask for you, Sofia. But you have me, she said, voice trembling, and I don't know how to stop wanting more. For a beat, they stood in that burning quiet. Then she asked, Who's really after me? He hesitated. There's another family, he said finally. One that wants my power. They found out about you. They think you're my weakness. Are they wrong? He didn't answer. Instead, he stepped closer, until there was barely a breath of space between them. His hand cupped her cheek, warm, calloused, reverent. They don't understand, he murmured, that you're the only thing that's ever made me strong. His lips brushed hers, but just barely. A promise, a threat, a temptation she could no longer fight. She leaned in, kissed him again, and this time, it was slow, deep, a surrender and a claiming all at once. But just as they lost themselves in each other, glass shattered, a window, gunfire. Lorenzo shoved her to the floor, covering her body with his. Stay down, he barked. Outside, voices shouted. They'd found them. Even here. Chapter 8. Under fire, under his skin. Bullets tore through the walls like thunder splitting the night. Sofia lay beneath Lorenzo, his body shielding hers, both of them pressed against the cold wooden floor. Her heartbeat wasn't in her chest anymore. It pounded in her throat, her ears, her very bones. Dust fell from the ceiling with every gunshot, mixing with the smoke curling in from the broken window. Lorenzo's voice was steel and command. Don't move. She nodded, eyes wide, too stunned to speak. He shifted his weight just enough to draw his gun, sliding it from the holster at his side in one fluid, deadly motion. The fire in his eyes was back, but this time it wasn't rage. It was focus. Pure, lethal calculation. I'll get us out, he whispered, brushing a kiss to her temple before crawling toward the window. Sofia's fingers trembled against the floorboards. Her mind screamed at her to stay down, stay quiet. But her eyes locked onto Lorenzo's retreating figure, and something in her chest cracked open. This wasn't just about survival anymore. She couldn't lose him. A loud thud came from the back door, then a voice, gruff, male, laced with cruel amusement. Come out, Moretti. We know she's with you. Lorenzo ducked behind a side table, eyes narrowing. They brought Roman's men, he muttered. He's testing me, trying to see how far I'll go for you. Sofia crawled to him. Then show him. He looked at her then, really looked like he was seeing someone new. Not just a witness, not just a complication, a partner. You're too brave for your own good, he murmured. Another window shattered, closer this time. Lorenzo grabbed Sofia's arm and pulled her against him, whispering near her ear. We need to move. There's a hidden door behind the bookshelf. Get there and wait for my signal. I'm not leaving you. You're not, he said fiercely. You're surviving. For me. She hesitated, torn, heart aching, but finally nodded. Slipping low, she darted for the wall, finding the small latch hidden beneath the lowest shelf. The door clicked open just as another gunshot ricocheted off the table Lorenzo had used for cover. He returned fire without hesitation. 2 sharp pops. A grunt followed, one down. Sofia slipped behind the door, heart hammering, her hands pressed to the inside wood, waiting for his signal. Seconds stretched like years. Then, his voice. Sofia, now! She burst out into the open just as Lorenzo dispatched the last of the intruders. Blood stained his shirt, but it wasn't his. Around him, silence reigned. He turned to her, chest heaving, and then he crossed the room in 3 long strides and crushed her against him. "You're mine," he growled into her hair, "and I swear to God no one's taking you from me." Sofia clutched his shirt, her tears finally falling. "Then don't let go." He didn't. Not that night. Not ever. Chapter 9. The Truth That Breaks Us. The world had gone still. For hours after the gunfire faded, Sofia sat beside Lorenzo on the safe house couch, a blanket draped around her shoulders, his blood-stained hands curled tightly around hers. Neither of them spoke. Outside, dawn painted the horizon with pale gold. Inside, silence stretched like a blade between them. Sofia finally looked at him. His eyes were distant, haunted, focused on a place she couldn't see. Who sent them? Lorenzo didn't answer right away. Instead, he rose slowly, walked to the fireplace, and threw another log into the embers like it could drown out the war burning inside him. "I need the truth," she said softly. "All of it. No more protecting me with lies." He turned. Shadows clung to the sharp planes of his face. Roman Genovese. Sofia's stomach turned. The name sounded like poison. "He wants my empire," Lorenzo said, voice flat. "Always has. But he didn't make his move until you showed up in my life. He thinks you're leverage." "Because I'm a weakness?" she asked. "No," he said sharply, stepping toward her. "Because he knows I care about you. And caring makes men like me vulnerable." His jaw clenched, but his eyes, those storm-dark eyes, held something fragile, something breaking. Sofia stood slowly, the blanket slipping from her shoulders. "Tell me what happened between you two." Lorenzo looked at her for a long moment, then nodded once. "I trusted him," he began, voice raw. "He was like a brother once. We built this life together. But Roman, he was always darker, greedier. When my fiancé died, he saw his chance." Sofia froze. "Your fiancé?" He closed his eyes. "Isabella. She was kind, brave, beautiful. She believed I could be more than a killer." Sofia's throat tightened. "She died in a car meant for me," he continued, voice hollow. "Roman had it rigged." "Oh God." "She was pregnant," he added, so quietly she almost didn't hear it. Sofia stepped back, the weight of his grief pressing into her like gravity. "Lorenzo, you remind me of her," he whispered. "Not because you look like her, but because you make me feel like I could still be worth saving." Tears blurred her vision. "So this is why you kept me alive? Locked me away? Protected me?" "Yes," he admitted. "And no." She blinked. "I kept you alive because I couldn't bear the thought of this world without your laugh. I locked you away because the idea of Roman touching you made me homicidal. And I protected you." His voice broke. "Because I love you." The confession landed like lightning, hot, sudden, undeniable. Sofia's heart swelled and splintered all at once, but before she could answer, the phone rang. Lorenzo snatched it up. His face paled as he listened. He hung up, eyes unreadable. "They have your sister," he said. Sofia's blood turned cold. "No, not Emma. They want an exchange," he murmured. "You, for her." Chapter 10. The Bargain with the Devil. The air snapped cold around Sofia. "My sister?" she whispered, eyes wide with disbelief. They have Emma?" Lorenzo's nod was slow, grim. "Roman sent one of his men to deliver the message. He knows everything, where Emma lives, where she works, her daily route. He waited until I had no moves left." Sofia swayed, grabbing the edge of the table for balance. "This is my fault." "No," Lorenzo said fiercely, crossing the room in 2 strides. He gripped her arms, steadying her. "This is his fault. He crossed a line, and he'll pay for it." But her mind spiraled. Images of Emma, smiling, soft-hearted, so unaware of the monsters that moved beneath the city's glitter, flashed through her head. I have to go to him. No, Lorenzo growled, voice dangerous. That's what he wants. You show up and he'll kill you both. Then what? She cried, heart pounding. He has her, Lorenzo. We can't do nothing. His eyes softened, just for a moment. You think I'd let anything happen to your family? He turned, pulling a small key from a hidden drawer. There's a vault beneath the mansion, weapons, access to private tunnels. Roman may have the upper hand, but I built this empire for war. I'll tear the city apart before I hand you over. Sofia's heart cracked under the weight of it all. His protectiveness, his fury, the tangled web of blood and love binding them tighter every second. But deep down, she knew how this would end. Roman didn't want power. He wanted to break Lorenzo, and the fastest way to do that was through her. She pulled away gently. He'll never stop, will he? Lorenzo looked at her, jaw tight. No, not until one of us is dead. Silence pulsed between them like a ticking bomb. Then Sofia exhaled. Then I'll make the trade. He turned on her instantly. Absolutely not. I'm not asking. Her voice was low but steady. I'll meet Roman, get Emma out. And while I have his attention, you end this. Lorenzo stared at her like she'd lost her mind. You'd walk into the lion's den just to give me a clear shot? No, she said softly. I'd walk in because I love my sister more than my fear. And I believe you'll come for me. His gaze dropped to the floor. When he looked back up, something in him cracked. He crossed to her in 2 long strides, crushed her to his chest. If anything happens to you, I will burn this city to the ground. Sofia tilted her face to his. Then make sure it doesn't. Their lips met in a kiss, full of desperation and promise, wild, trembling, breathless. It tasted like goodbye. When they pulled apart, Lorenzo held her face in both hands. You walk into that meeting, Sofia, and I will get you out. You better, she whispered, because I don't plan on dying today. And neither did he. Chapter 11. The Trap. The warehouse loomed like a beast in the mist, broken windows gaping like jagged teeth. Rusted metal creaked in the wind. It was the kind of place you never left from, not whole anyway. Sofia stood alone at the entrance, hood drawn over her head, heart galloping like a caged thing. The only sound was the faint clink of her boots on concrete as she stepped through the doorway. Roman was already waiting. He sat in a shadowed throne of crates, surrounded by 6 armed men in black. The air was heavy with gun oil and old blood. But Roman looked untouched by the filth around him. Tailored black suit, blood-red tie, and a smile that made her skin crawl. Well, well, he drawled, unfolding like a serpent. The lamb comes willingly. Sofia's chin lifted. Where's my sister? Roman chuckled, slow and dark. Safe, for now. He gestured, and one of his men dragged Emma forward from the shadows, her mouth taped, her eyes wild. Sofia took a shaky breath. Relief flooded her. Emma was bruised, terrified, but alive. Let her go, she demanded. You have me. Roman stepped closer, his gaze raking her. But I don't want just you. I want everything Lorenzo Moretti thinks he owns. And right now, you're his most prized possession. She flinched at the word. Possession. Roman circled her like a vulture. You know, you're prettier than I expected. It's almost poetic, really. I take his empire, I take his girl. I break the unbreakable king. I'm not his, Sofia spat. Oh, but you are. Roman's voice slithered around her. You just don't see it yet. He raised a hand, and his men lifted their weapons. Sofia's pulse thundered. This was it. The signal. Suddenly, crack. Glass shattered above. Smoke bomb. Boom. Chaos exploded. Lorenzo's men stormed in through the ceiling and side entrances, guns blazing, wolves among sheep. One of Roman's guards fell with a cry. Another dropped his weapon and fled. In the mayhem, Sofia lunged toward Emma, ripping the tape from her sister's mouth. "Run!" she screamed, yanking her toward the exit. Roman roared like a demon. "Get them!" But before his men could react, Lorenzo emerged through the smoke, black coat flaring. Cold fury etched into every line of his face, his pistol aimed squarely at Roman's chest. "You made one mistake," he said, voice deathly low. "You threatened my family." Roman laughed. "You're too late." But Sofia wasn't waiting for them to finish their deadly dance. She grabbed a loose pipe, turned, and slammed it into the face of the thug behind her, grabbing his dropped weapon and tossing it to Lorenzo. "You taught me well," she said, breathless. Lorenzo caught the gun midair. "Remind me to never piss you off." They stood back to back now, surrounded, hearts synced like war drums. And somewhere beyond the blood and bullets, love pulsed like a living thing. They'd either win together or fall as one. Chapter 12. The End of the King. Gunfire echoed like thunder in the warehouse, the acrid scent of smoke thick in the air. Chaos roared all around them, grunts, shouts, bullets slicing through darkness. But Sofia only heard her own heartbeat as she clung to Emma with one hand and gripped Lorenzo's with the other. "Stay behind me," he barked over the fray, shielding her body with his as another guard lunged forward. Lorenzo dropped the man with one clean shot. Roman was retreating now, but not running. His fury burned too deep for flight. With a snarl, he yanked Sofia's arm, wrenching her away from Lorenzo and dragging her toward the steel staircase at the back. "No!" Lorenzo shouted, breaking through two men to chase after them. Sofia twisted and fought, nails digging into Roman's wrist, but his grip was brutal. "You think he loves you?" Roman hissed into her ear. "You're just another weakness to him. And I kill weaknesses." They reached the top platform, where rusted chains dangled from old cranes, and broken skylights let in slivers of moonlight. Roman shoved her against the railing, gun in hand, his wild eyes locked onto the floor below. "Come, Lorenzo," he shouted. "Let's see what you're willing to sacrifice to win." Lorenzo appeared like a shadow rising from the flames, blood at his temple, jaw clenched, weapon raised. "Let her go." Roman cocked his head, pressing the barrel to Sofia's temple. "This is what you wanted, isn't it? Revenge? A war to end all wars?" Sofia's breathing hitched. Her body trembled, but her eyes stayed locked on Lorenzo's. "Don't do it," she whispered. "Don't trade blood for more blood." But Lorenzo's hands were steady, his voice steel. "You never understood one thing, Roman," he said quietly. "She's not my weakness. She's my anchor." Roman sneered, "Then drown with her." He pulled the trigger. Click. Empty. Roman stared in disbelief. Sofia reacted first. Her knee shot up, catching him off guard. She elbowed him hard in the ribs, twisting from his grip. As he staggered, Lorenzo moved like lightning, tackling Roman and slamming him against the steel grating. Fists flew. Blood splattered. Roman fought like a madman, but Lorenzo fought like a man with something to lose. With one final punch, Roman collapsed, unconscious and broken. The warehouse quieted. Sirens wailed in the distance. Reinforcements. It was over. Sofia dropped to her knees beside her sister, wrapping her in a fierce, tearful hug. Emma clung to her, shaking but alive. Lorenzo approached, his chest heaving, blood at the corner of his mouth. She rose slowly and stepped into his arms. "Are you okay?" he murmured, voice raw. She nodded, fingers tightening in his shirt. "I thought I lost you." He cupped her face. "I've lived too long without something worth saving. Now I have it." Their lips met, soft at first, then desperate. A kiss born from survival, sealed with surrender. Because despite all the blood, all the danger, all the shadows they'd faced, she wasn't just the girl who witnessed too much. She was the one he couldn't let go. The end.
Thank you for listening to the end. Kindly hit the like button and tell us where you are reading from. This means a lot to me.